So dear friends, and so now let me begin with the weekly message of the Sunday. And this particular Sunday gives us a message which is very touching, that God is present in our lives. God is present in our life at all times, at all times. You know, the Psalm 145, which we have in between the readings, says, God takes care of us because God is present among us. You know, many a time we think when tragedies happen, when things that we don't expect have happened, the first thing that we ask, where is God in our life? But today's readings give us that continuous flow of God's presence in our life. In the first reading, Isaiah 55, we see the prophet. He's also hungering for God. He's waiting for God. And there's a big blow of wind, as it were, everything flying away. And the prophet expects that perhaps God is present in this wind, but God was not there. And then there's an earthquake, and you know what happens in an earthquake? The whole thing is moved and shouted up and down, but God was not there. And where was God? When the prophet comes out, he hears the gentle breeze, and his heart fills with joy to say that God was there in the gentle breeze. So God is there when we are gentle, in the gentle breeze. And God is also there in our troubles, in our struggles, in our earthquakes, as it were. And that is the experience of the apostles when they confront the tragedy in their lives. And the tragedy is that they find that at this particular moment that Jesus is not there. They are in the midst of this storm, as it were, and they ask, or rather they cry out for Jesus. And Jesus calms the winds, calms the sea, as it were. And the apostles themselves say that He is the Lord of the waves, He is the Lord of the sea. On the other hand, Jesus Himself asked the disciples, where is your faith? Where is your faith? And perhaps that is the question God asks us. We are people who are tangible, who want to touch, who want to see, want to feel, like Thomas, you know, in that beautiful scene where he challenges his fellow disciples and says, unless I see the Lord, I touch Him, I put my finger into His side, as it were, I will not believe. But Jesus shows us that He is there even when perhaps we have no belief, but God walks into our life. The second reading of Romans chapter 8 also tells us that our strength is in the Lord. What can we do without the Lord? And therefore, everything depends on God Himself, on our Savior. So today's readings perhaps give us that meaning that God is there in the gentle breeze, God is there in the storm, God is there at all times in our life. We only need our faith to check it up, as it were, and to experience for ourselves to say that God will not abandon us. God will take care of us. God will feed us, says the psalmist in the psalm that we will hear during the masses that we attend. Let us ask the Lord for His grace for ourselves, that we be convinced of His presence in our life at all times.